Hello, my name is Andre Ferrell.
And I'm Austin Crouther.
And we are here to say something about health and wellness.
Everybody's here now. We got something to talk about. Just have a seat, yeah, we're gonna talk it out. Say something, that's what we're gonna do. What's going on? Tell me what's
Health is our wealth. And since the pandemic, we've seen many conditions and diseases come that have been lying dormant, but they are now showing up in many of our bodies. The last 3 years, our bodies have taken a toll just from our environment, our medicines, as well as our foods, and let's not mention the vaccines. Today, I'm going to talk about a disease that actually had been lying dormant, but has now shown its face and how he is dealing with it. Please help me welcome Andre Ferrell and Austin Crouther. Hey, Andre.
Hey, Cheré, how you doing?
I'm good. Hey, Austin.
Hey, what's up, Cheré?
Thank y'all so much for being here.
No problem.
Andre, you look amazing considering what you've been through.
Yes.
And I'm happy that you came on the set today to talk about what you went through, what you're still going through, and what your future looks like. So let's just talk a little bit about what I know Andre to be. This happy, bubbly, always on the go. You're a counselor. You also work in life insurance, correct?
Correct.
So tell me what your life was like before we get into Myasthenia Gravis. Myasthenia Gravis.
Like you said, just living life. Of course, I do work in the schools. I love to travel, want to be everywhere. Many places as I can. Happy, just original guy, just like to have fun, spending time with family, spending time with friends and stuff like that. So that's who I am.
And Austin, thank you so much for being here. You are one of the closest friends and like to cut up and act the fool. But I'm gonna tell you something, Austin. On this set today, you're gonna behave yourself.
I'm gonna try my best to behave, but I can't make no promises. But we'll move it forward, and I'll try to be on my best behavior.
You had to be a good friend to invite him. He had to be a good friend, right?
Yes, yes. He's really been helpful helpful to me with this situation that I'm dealing with. So, there's so many people. Let me just say this. Mm-hmm. The love that I received from what I just went through was just overwhelming. And I thank everybody, including yourself, who was there for me. Mm-hmm.
You recently was diagnosed with this. Tell me when you were diagnosed.
Let me go back to October of last year. That's actually when I started having issues with my vision and everything. I'm thinking that, okay, I'm about to turn 46 years old. Maybe I just need glasses and stuff like that. So I did exactly that. Went and got an eye exam, got the glasses. Things still weren't getting better with my vision and everything. So the day of the runoff election, I had a situation where I just got really, really dizzy and I could not see. Like my vision went away for a moment. That's when I was like, something wrong. So I went to the emergency room and everything. And even then, they didn't know exactly what was going on. It wasn't until January 25th exactly that I found out exactly what was going on with myself.
Okay, so they diagnosed you with that. But tell me, what exactly is myasthenia gravis?
Well, okay, so I've been doing my own research on this. And people, please always understand it's always important for you to do your research. Even though I know you go to the doctor, you still need to find out things for yourself. From my understanding, myasthenia gravis is basically the communication between the nerves and the muscles in your body. And somewhere along the line, the communication is broken, which is what's causing the problems with me. And
what did they do? What kind of test did they actually run to determine that that's in fact what you have?
Well, at first, like I was saying, they thought it was just ocular myasthenia gravis. But I kept on paying attention to my body and paying attention to the things that were going on. Like I had started having problems swallowing and stuff like that. So I wrote down everything that was going on with me or whatever. And that's when the neuro-ophthalmologist came in. And he was like, based on what I'm seeing, he was looking at my eyes, and based on the things that you have written down, we need to do further testing. And of course, it was a blood test that they did to find out. Yes.
Okay, and so Austin, you work in the medical field as well, right, RN?
Yes,
correct?
I'm a registered nurse, yes.
Okay, so then when you say ocular, so there are different phases to myasthenia gravis. Because what do you mean when he says ocular?
So ocular just means eyes. So a lot of times a more medical definition of myasthenia is just a paralysis of muscles, of what we call in the healthcare field. And myasthenia usually starts what we call ascending, which starts from the head and works down. So a lot of times it literally starts in the eye. A lot of times it does not progress, but depending on what it is and what's caused it, it can cause an influx of antibodies, which makes it generalized. So therefore, when it just starts with the ocular, it can be corrected with little medications, different things like that. But when it becomes generalized, we have to explore what's going on with it more.
Okay, and so in my research, I learned that this particular, I'm gonna say MG, y'all, because I'm gonna mess up.
MG is so much easier.
Okay.
It's a mouthful to say, myasthenia gravis.
Myasthenia gravis, myasthenia gravis, but we're gonna say MG. So what I've learned that the cases are becoming more and more popular, right? Especially over in China, I've been hearing about it, and also hearing about how it can be deadly if it's not treated properly. So since COVID, it's been on a rise. And so there has been a link between the COVID vaccine or even having had COVID-19. There has been some type of link. So have you had the vaccine or had you had COVID-19 at all?
I've had COVID 3 times, and I definitely just got the first 2 vaccines.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you see these, you just saw this within last year.
Yeah.
You just started having the issues. Now let's talk about, now that we've established that, let's talk about what happened the day, because you were in the hospital. You had a picture on Facebook when you finally shared your story, but you had an episode that was very, very life-threatening. It was very scary to you. Tell me about that morning or how that happened.
Okay, so I ain't gonna never forget that day. It was April 19th. I woke up and basically I couldn't even get up out the bed. It was truly an encounter with God. I woke up and I couldn't get out the bed, so I was, a little frustrated, kind of wondering what's going on. I panicked and stuff like that and everything. So my mind told me, okay, I can't get out the bed, but I can roll. So I rolled out my bed and fell on the floor. And so when I fell on the floor, basically, like I had a bunch of fluid in my lungs and everything as well too. So, the fluid in my mind was kind of filling up and everything in my mouth, whatever. So of course, I was panicking, crying, wondering what was going on.
So you couldn't move your legs, your limbs? You couldn't move anything?
No. Only thing I could do was roll. That's what my mind told me to do, was roll off the bed. I don't know why, but it did. So I rolled and I fell on the floor. And so, of course, I was crying, I was upset and everything. And it's like God himself came into the room. And God said, just stop, open up your mouth and just let the fluid out, keep on spitting it out and everything until it came out. And then the words that he brought to me was to say, I shall live and not die. I think this is a little touchy for me because I had a friend that just died in March. So my mind was telling me that you about to go too. But, as I kept saying, I shall live and not die, I shall live and not die, I noticed that my body started calming down. What I would like to say came underneath the subjection to God or whatever. So then I finally got all the fluid out of my mouth and I laid there on the ground and I calmed down. And then I thought to myself, okay, you on the floor, you calm now, but your phone in the bed. And I really didn't have the muscular strength to get my phone. So I just laid there for a moment. And then I unhooked the sheet from the side of the bed. And I just tried to pull as much as I can. I finally got the phone to come down on the floor. And that's when I called Austin and told him, I need you to come over here quick. I can't move.
And this is you home alone by yourself?
Yes.
Going through all of this?
Yes.
And how far do you live, Austin?
It's like 10, 12 minutes away. It was like 5:40 in the morning, I got a phone call.
Wow. Oh, this is like 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Jesus. Okay, so I don't want to. What happened after that? You got Austin on the phone.
He got there, he came there, and I still didn't have, he couldn't get me up off the floor by himself. So he called another one of our friends. He came over there and they rushed me to the hospital. Once I got there, what I found out, even though I have been doing my own research and I am part of a support group as well, what I found out was that I was in crisis, something called myasthenia crisis.
Okay.
Even though I have been doing my research and everything, I did not know what crisis looked like. I should have known something was different the night before because when I tried to eat, I couldn't chew and I couldn't swallow, but I just let me take my medicine, just go to bed. But little did I know I was in crisis.
And this all happened in April.
Yes.
And you were diagnosed last year.
No, this year in January.
Oh, you were diagnosed in January, but you
Yeah.
started having symptoms last year. And so you're already on medication for this.
Yes.
But you never heard of crisis. In Austin, so what is crisis?
So crisis is where your body just overreacts to having those antibodies, what we call antibodies, that causes this MG to flare, what we call a flare. So it causes extreme muscle weakness.
Even in the throat?
Even in your throat. Well, we have to realize our diaphragm is a muscle. It inhibits us to breathe if it's paralyzed. So you don't get to get good breaths. You have all this stuff building in your lungs and you can't breathe. So it also affects our heart. Our heart is a muscle. So therefore, there are a lot of tests that we have to take and administer to patients to be sure that their heart isn't messed up, be sure that they're still able to breathe well, to function well when they move, when they walk. So that's what happens in crisis. It's kind of similar to when people have sickle cell anemia and they have sickle cell and they're in extreme pain, so they're in sickle cell crisis. So it's one of those things.
So then was there anything having now, well, before I go to that, you went to the hospital and you were admitted into the hospital for how many days?
I was in the hospital for 10 days.
And at one point you ended up in ICU.
Well, I was in ICU for the majority of the time I was there. Once I got to the hospital, it had got so bad where I couldn't even hold my head up. I couldn't talk or anything. So when they came and got me from the house, I guess my strength had came back for a moment. You know what I'm saying? Where I was able to actually walk to the car and get in the car. But as I got to the hospital, one thing I noticed, I couldn't lay down because when I tried to lay down, I couldn't breathe. And then as time went on, I guess the muscle just really, really got weak where I couldn't hold my head up, I couldn't talk, I couldn't do anything. So, you know, I wound up on a ventilator as well too, because they put me down because they was trying to put, I was assuming it was the feeding tube, right? Trying to put the feeding tube in me, and I couldn't even tell them I couldn't breathe. I was trying to tell them, but I couldn't. And when they put the tube in me and they laid me down, my oxygen level dropped drastically.
Because you was trying to tell them that you couldn't breathe, but you couldn't get it out, and they weren't paying attention to the body language. There's something about the nurses in the hospital, Austin, that just don't pay attention to what the patient is trying to say.
A lot of nurses don't listen. That's why it's very important to have a health advocate always there with you. As being a healthcare provider myself, I try to advocate for my friends, my family. I don't too much like to get involved, but if I have to say, well, hey, you know, we're doing this wrong, because health disparities against Black Americans is real. I know it's a topic that doesn't like to be discussed, but it's a real topic that has to be addressed. So it's always best to have a health advocate there with you.
Absolutely, that is so key. I do not like for anybody to go to the emergency room alone or be in the hospital by themselves, especially when you cannot function adequately to tell them what's going on. Now, Andre, talk about that moment, the fear that you had to have felt where you wasn't able to speak, you couldn't hold your head up.
Well, I was really, let me say this though. I did have somebody there with me, but this happened like late at night. So she had went home, you know, that evening and whatever, and thinking that everything was gonna be cool. But I was really nervous when it got to the point where I couldn't hold my head up and when I couldn't talk, because therefore, you know, they're not gonna be able to hear anything I'm saying to them. But I guess what was even more scarier is waking up on a ventilator, because whatever they gave me to knock me out, that next morning about 5 o'clock in the morning, I wake up and I'm on a ventilator and I'm like, what's going on? All this stuff inside of me and everything like that. And then also I was with, I guess what they would call 2 techs. And when they, you know, one of the techs said to me, so did you see the pearly gates like everybody else? And I'm like, I said, because I'm asking him, give me something to write with, because I don't know what you're talking about. So when I wrote down, I said, what are you talking about? He said something about coded. So I'm like, well, did I die and didn't know it? You know what I'm saying? Like, did I die and didn't know it? But I didn't actually die, but they called a code in the hospital because my oxygen level had dropped so low. But all of that now brought a whole new level of anxiety and fear, because I'm like, what's going on? Because I didn't know anything was going on. I just woke up, and when I woke up, I had a feeding tube in me and I was on a ventilator.
Yeah, when I saw the ventilator, it was very emotional for me when they called me on FaceTime. You were wide awoke on the ventilator, which I had never seen that. I'm sure you guys have seen it maybe. I have never seen somebody wide awoke and writing, communicating on a ventilator. So that was a good sign from God. But now going forward, after you've come out of the hospital, and now you are dealing with the aftermath and what life looks like tomorrow. So what are you facing right now?
What I'm dealing with now, let me just say this. I honestly feel really great. I'm just gonna say that. I had to take some treatments of plasmapheresis. I can't get into all that because I can't explain all that. I have researched it, but it's a lot to explain. In medical terms, just ain't me.
So they gave you blood. What is plasmapheresis?
So plasmapheresis is an invasive procedure where they use kind of like a dialysis machine. They put in a special IV, and it's 2 different ports on it. One is going to pull the blood out of your body, and the one is going to push the blood back into the body. And the machine cleanses the blood and pushes the clean blood back into your body. So it's cleaning your blood.
So it's kind of
free
like
of antibodies.
dialysis.
It's just like a dialysis, yes.
Okay. But what does that do for his muscles?
So because your muscles, this is your muscle. You got all these antibodies on your muscles, which is paralyzing your muscles. You can't move. So if they get these antibodies off your muscles will rejuvenate and start to work and function properly.
Okay. Did you feel the difference after that treatment?
Oh my God, like since I've been home, I got out of the hospital April 29th. I have felt amazing compared to everything that I was going through prior to going to the hospital. Like I work in the school, as I was saying, I couldn't even walk down the hallway without getting tired. I couldn't walk down the hallway, you know, the kids would be looking at me like, they used to stand me upbeat, laughing, talking, joking. They're like, Mr. Ferrell, what's wrong? And stuff like that or whatever, you know, and I couldn't really explain it all to them because they little, they wouldn't understand anyway. But from April 29th all the way up until this very moment, I feel amazing.
Good.
Yeah.
That's good to hear.
I do have to have surgery on my thymus gland. I'm working in the process of getting that scheduled now because from what I was told, anytime my thymus gland is enlarged.
Okay.
So that could put me in jeopardy of possibly having cancer, or it could put me in jeopardy of going back into crisis again. So they want to do whatever they need to do to fix that. So that's what I'm dealing with now.
So are they removing the thymus gland?
I believe so, yes.
Or how do you feel about that?
There is some anxiety. However, I feel as though it's something that I need to do because I'm more afraid of if I don't have it removed, then I'll have cancer or the tumor could actually get bigger and then I'll be back in crisis or possibly worse. So
Have they explained to you the repercussions of having your thymus gland removed?
I met with the surgeon last week and he did explain that to me. Yeah. It's, he said most people don't have problems. It really wasn't too much that he said that could happen. I do know one thing he told me is that I'm gonna have to be careful about like catching colds and germs and stuff like that or whatever, but he didn't say a whole lot. But of course, that's what I got friends for. That's
why we got nurses for.
Right.
Now you lost a lot of weight since you got sick.
Yes.
And I guess so considering that it was a restriction in you chewing and swallowing, how much weight have you lost?
A little bit over 60 pounds.
Wow. How do you feel about that?
I feel good. I do feel good, but at the same time, I'm not happy about how I lost it, but I am happy. It feels good to actually be lighter. You know, a lot of things are easier when the weight comes off. That's been an issue that I struggled with for a long time because I've always been a big guy, but I feel good.
So do you have any diet restrictions to keep you from going into a crisis or anything else when it comes to this?
I have been following the anti-inflammatory diet, basically. It's not really a diet. I've just been really monitoring the foods that I eat. A lot of foods that we eat on a normal basis cause inflammation in our body, and a lot of people don't know that. And so I'm trying to reduce the amount of inflammation. You ain't gonna never get rid of all of it, but I'm trying to reduce the amount of foods that I eat that have high inflammatory.
Yep, that's good. That is where a lot of diseases come from. Would you say the same? Do you guys give that recommendation to patients a lot?
We do. Nutrition, a lot of things start with nutrition. So a lot of times if we can just reduce the intake of our food that we're eating, decrease processed food, decrease a lot of salt in our food, decrease a lot of pork, all this other stuff, it can help. It's not going to actually take the disease away, but it can help minimize some of the side effects that comes along with it. So
I personally think, Austin, that it will actually take the disease away. I do. I think a healthy diet, plant-based lifestyle, I think that it would definitely, I believe I am a witness to that. So let's talk about the support that you received outside of Austin, good old Austin here. Before I get to that, Austin, how did you feel during the whole process, from the phone call to picking him up to being in the hospital? Like, how were you feeling, considering you also were friends of Travis, may he rest in peace, and you know that we just lost Travis? How were you feeling?
It was a little bit still dealing with his loss. It was definitely like, okay, here we go again. But thankfully, having the medical knowledge of what's going on, I was relieved. Like, okay, so we need this, and this to get done, and we'll get back to where we are in a healthy place. So it wasn't that, especially having a background in surgical trauma ICU, I've seen the worst of the worst. So it wasn't the worst that I've seen. So I was like, okay, just coaching him through, hey, we got this, A, B, and C. Hey, don't skip D, we got to do this one first. And then we were able to get there. But definitely dealing with the loss, I was like, oh, I got the phone call. And, being there to see Travis there, definitely had some post-traumatic stress. I'm like, okay, so what I'm about to walk into, definitely coaching myself like, all right, here we go. But it got to a place where I'm like, hey, we're going to be all right. It's okay.
That's good. That's very strong strength that you have. Having the knowledge, but still seeing your loved one, your friend go through it. It's a whole nother dynamic. But you're surrounded by love, and you had this team of friends come together. Jeff actually called me, so I was out of town, and Jeff said, well, I was headed out of town. So I got the phone call as well, the text messages. Grateful that we know to communicate within the circle. But you had, when I came to the hospital, you had a friend, Teresa was doing the communication with the doctors, and just the way you all rallied and made sure that medication was given, what was being given to him, what was the aftercare gonna look like. Everybody was adjusting their schedules for vacations, and is he gonna need therapy? Because your family isn't here in Atlanta, but you made a family out of friends. So talk about that support system, because from what I saw, it really just was mind-blowing.
It was, like I said, truly amazing. Thanking God for each and every one of you all every day of my life, because my sister did come. My family is not here. Most of them are in Cleveland, Ohio. But I do have an Atlanta family as well, too. And like you said, they rallied together, and it just made me want to get well. It just knew to have people know, for me to know that people care that much about me, adjusting schedules, anything I needed. Are you good financially? Everything. They were there for me. My Atlanta family, not to mention the support group that I'm part of as well, too, for Myasthenia Gravis. There's a young lady in there. I talk to everybody in the support group. There's a lady named Dawn. Dawn has had Myasthenia Gravis for, I'm going to say MG. She's had it for 20 years. And she has dealt with crisis. She's had the surgery that I'm about to have. She's been through everything with this. And her too, or Dawn, was actually on the phone when the doctors came in there, because it's good to have nurses and friends that are in the medical field, but to have somebody who's dealt with exactly what you're dealing with. She made sure that she wanted us to call her at everything that the doctor said.
Wow.
Even when it came to me getting the treatments. There's another one, I think it's IVIG. She wanted them to do the plasmapheresis first versus doing IVIG. And, she was just there. And I really, really appreciate her as well, too, even to this very day. Me and her talk every day to every other day. And I just love all of my friends and family and support group, because without them, I don't know where I would have been, because this is still all new to me.
Yeah, it's still a journey that you're still on. Now, this support group, is it on Facebook? Where'd you find them?
It's crazy. I'm just going to tell the truth about it. I met a gentleman that I was actually going to go on a date with. This was maybe about last year sometime. We never wound up going on a date. And we kept in touch with each other, though. We talked on the phone quite often and everything. And so I hadn't talked to him since November. And so he actually texted me on January 25th out the blue. And he was like, how you doing? I haven't heard from you in a while. What's going on? And that particular day I was at work, and I was like, I'm really not feeling too good. I just got a diagnosis. I don't really know nothing about it, but it's too much to text. I'll call you when I get off work. I called him when I got off work, and I told him exactly what I was dealing with. And he was like, I feel sorry for you. He said, but I'm gonna tell you, you're gonna be okay. And he was like, the reason why I'm gonna tell you that, because I have a friend who's had that for over 20 years, which was Dawn. He was like, this was a Friday. He said, I'm gonna put you in contact with Dawn or whatever. And Sunday evening, him and Dawn called me. Me and Dawn and him stayed on the phone for about 2.5 hours talking. Dawn said, I have a support group that everybody in the support group has MG. And you need to come out. It was actually that next Monday, which is the next day. It was actually that Monday. And she invited me to the support group. And ever since then, it's almost like that's another family of mine as well too. They have been by my side for everything.
See, you never know. Some people you just meet, you don't know when you're going to need that
Never
person,
know.
okay? They
Never
just
know.
might be there to make the
Right.
connection. I always say, don't
Yeah.
confuse your friendships with assignments, okay?
I tell
Some
them
people
all
are
the
assigned
time.
to you.
I still talk to the guy. I tell them all the time. We weren't supposed to date.
No.
This is exactly what
This
me and
is-
you were supposed to meet for.
And tell him he better act right because you got an army floating around you, okay? Well, before I leave, I want first thank you so much for coming and for sharing your story. Thank you so much, Austin, as well. I want you to look in the camera and personally name the names that you can remember. I know you can't name everybody. He can't name everybody, you guys, okay? So do not get offended. I just want you to pay homage or recognize those people who were there for you during that time because that support means a lot.
Oh my God, there's so many
I
of
know,
them.
right?
But I want to thank, first of all, you, Cheré. I want to thank Teresa Bivens. I want to thank Austin Crouther, my sister Andre Ferrell, Lawrence Williams, Devontae Prater, Joffrey Franklin, Kwame Lowe, Rashad Palmer, my mom Betty Farrell, who called everybody in the world the whole time I was in the hospital. She was in Ohio. She couldn't make it down, but she kept calling because she wanted to make sure her baby was okay. All of my Cleveland family who did a prayer request for me, Reginald Shumpert, Jonathan Sales, Asia Browder, Marquita Rogers. The list can go on and on. I love you all, and thank you all for being there for me during that time.
Thank you so much. Yeah, having those prayer warriors as your friends are so important. If you can't have friends that can't pray, I advise you to get some new ones and just put them to the side. They got to be able to pray. Thank you so much, Andre. One last thing, I'm going to have you look into the camera and just encourage somebody who may be going through anything in life, because I know that when you can be there for somebody else, things are better for you. So just send a note of encouragement out to somebody who may be going through something.
I just want to tell everyone or anybody who's going through anything that prayer truly changes things. I am deep in prayer these days, and one thing I will say, anything that I personally can help anybody with, I am here for you. That's how I feel about anything in life. There is nothing that we go through as people that we should be afraid to address or not want to talk about. If you don't talk about it, it's going to eat you up. So talk about it and live the best life, or as you say, live on purpose.
Live on purpose.
Thank you, Patrick, too. I kind of give homage to your husband because he did pray for me when I was in the hospital, too.
Yes. Well, I always say healing is transparency. Transparency is healing. So until the next time we have said something. Thank you so much for being here, you guys.